A Russian mindworm that we thought had been eradicated has been making a resurgence lately, with more and more cases being reported every day. It's called Oblomovitis, and it's been going viral, mostly among our youth on that other video sharing platform. And today, I'm going to give you the telltale symptoms and the surefire cure. But I have to be upfront with you folks. We are really up against it here. This particular virus is spread by one of the great Russian novels of the 19th century.
Dude, you think I'm reading some fat Russian novel from 2 centuries ago? You're delusional.
No, wait. I've got a whiteboard. And if you have 5 of these 6 symptoms, then you definitely have Oblomovitis. And the 6th is the most important, so make sure you stick around till the end.
Yeah, right.
Hey, it's Andrew from the Isle of Misfit books, where I share with you the books that have struck me and stuck with me from my 25 years in rare books. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the little-known and way underappreciated Russian novel from 1859 by Ivan Goncharov called Oblomov. Here's a hot take. Of all the great Russian novels of the 19th century, and there are some major ones, I believe Oblomov is the most relevant and most relatable to our current times. What? No, baby. He's not better than you. You're the best. You know that. You're perfect. Come on now. Don't be silly. I'm going to put you back on your pedestal. Where were we? Oh yes, the whiteboard. I did actually write some things down here that let us know what Oblomovitis is. The term grew beyond the novel, and even Lenin apparently used the term in his tirades against ineffectual bureaucrats. I could totally see Musk and Vivek doing the same, or our corporate overlords using it in their demands that we return to the office. Yeah, right. Ain't happening. I'm on the clock right now. Symptom number 1. Do you lounge around in pajamas all day? It's just more comfortable. Do you have a lack of ambition or purpose? Ugh, what's the point? Oblomov lives in Petersburg and he makes just enough money from the rents and produce generated by his family's estate, which is 1,000 miles back east, to survive. But barely. Do you have an inability to finish projects? I'll get to it when I get to it. Oblomov lounges around in unclean, unpatched clothes, surrounded by partially finished books, unread newspapers, half-written letters and correspondence, and just a general accumulation of dust and grime. He says he's working on a grand scheme to modernize the estate, but he never gets around to it. Symptom number 4, no social life. I got a social life. I got lots of friends. Oblomov really has only one true friend, and that is the German Stolz, who is a friend from childhood. He doesn't completely avoid people, he just doesn't bother going out to socialize. Symptom 5, difficulty getting and maintaining a girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, significant other. Women only want rich chads. The one thing that drags Oblomov out of his shell, almost gets him to move and grow and change, is when his friend Stolz sets him up with Olga, who is a younger woman of marrying age who enchants him and who falls in love with him as well. He is her first love, just as she is his. And finally, the 6th and most important, your serfs don't respect you. What the hell is a serf? What can I say about this one? It's a 19th century Russian novel. You're going to have some serfs in it. What am I supposed to do? Just throw out the whiteboard because we don't have serfs anymore? Come on, look at all the work I put into this thing. So if you've ever had 5 of these 6 symptoms all at the same time, then you definitely have or have had Oblomovitis. And it is a disease that can ruin your life. The longer it goes on, the harder it is to snap out of it. So Oblomov is often seen and praised as a satire of a very specific class, the landed gentry of Russia of the 19th century. If you zoom out a little bit, you realize that what he's satirizing is simply the privileged class. Oblomov you could see as an individual representation of the class at large, refusing to change, refusing to adapt, refusing to grow, despite these large sort of tectonic shifts that are happening in the nation or in the world even around them. In Goncharov's day, the talk was about modernizing Russia and abolishing serfdom. We might replace this today with seemingly inevitable trends like global warming or immigration, globalization, or roboticization. And much as we like to pretend, especially in the United States, that we live in a classless society, of course there is a class of people who are able to isolate themselves from these changes, pretend these changes aren't actually happening, and effectively bury their heads in the sand and refuse to change, refuse to grow. And that is who Oblomov is. And that's what Oblomov is about on the external, satirical, superficial level. Oblomovitis is not really laziness. It is a more complete withdrawal. Of course, somebody like Lenin or Musk or Vivek or a CEO would equate the two and would say Oblomovitis equals laziness. But really it's something more than that, I would say. It's something that is almost heroic in that it is a complete withdrawal, not just from the demands of a job or from going to the office and being behind a desk from 9 to 5, but a complete withdrawal from society and from society's expectations. I think he really just wants to keep his life as calm and placid and unchanging as possible. Oblomov's Dream is the only chapter that gets a title, and it was actually published separately, and you can see why. The novel kind of changes tone here as we go back to Oblomov's childhood, and we see a very idyllic childhood, but we also see an ineffectual father and a mother who is overprotective, kind of overbearing, enmeshed. We also see Oblomov surrounded by servants who essentially will do everything for him, including dress him, feed him, bathe him. Everything is done for him, everything is handled, and no wonder then that later in life he has little interest in making the effort to pursue a life, to make something out of his life. Immediately after this wonderful chapter, this idyllic chapter, we return to Petersburg. Oblomov's German friend Stoltz pays a visit. It's Stoltz who introduces him to Olga, the young woman with whom he will eventually, inevitably fall in love. This brings Oblomov to a crisis and to the novel's central question. Do I change who I am for love? Can I even change who I am if I want to for love? And what follows is a perfect portrait of an avoidant in love. More than 100 years before the concept of attachment was developed, and before this idea of avoidant and anxious attachment came into vogue, as it now is. And this is another way in which I feel this novel is much more relevant to our present situation. So the middle half of the book is all about Oblomov and Olga's bittersweet, on-again, off-again relationship, or situationship, as it would be called today. If you have ever blown hot and cold in a relationship, or if you've ever been in a relationship with somebody who has, then you may find this section triggering. There were points where I just wanted to grab Oblomov by the scruff of his neck and shake him and scream at him. But I think that's the sign of good fiction, right? You feel very invested in these characters. You want things to work out for them, yet you realize that there's a good chance that it won't work out for them, and I don't want to get into spoilers. There's a particular passage where he breaks up with her via a letter, of course, because he can't face her, because he wants to avoid conflict as an avoidant. And he really just nails what avoidant attachment is all about. You have made a mistake. The man you have longed for and dreamed of is not me. Wait, he will come, and then you will come to yourself, and you will be vexed and ashamed of your mistake, and your shame and vexation will hurt me. I'm not truly lovable, and as soon as you spend enough time with me, you'll come to realize this, and then you'll reject me, and I'll be crushed. Later in the same letter, he recounts to her his internal struggle. What will happen when I grow deeply attached to her? When seeing her is no longer a luxury, but a necessity? When love digs deep into my heart? How shall I be able to tear myself away then? Shall I be able to survive the pain? In another 3 weeks or in another month, it would be too late. Love makes incredible progress. It is a kind of gangrene of the soul. That's just an amazing phrase. Love is the gangrene of the soul. But that is the way that somebody with a severely avoidant attachment style, like Oblomov has, is going to see love, is going to see that potential for conflict, the strong emotions. That is what is so terrifying. Another way in which this novel strikes me as very relevant to our present situation is this idea of change, this idea of a person's ability to change. Every time Stoltz comes around, he tries to persuade Oblomov to basically get up off his couch, get up off his ass, and make something of his life, to join him abroad. Stoltz travels for business a lot. Come join me abroad, travel, go see the world, get a job, follow through on your plans to modernize your estate, go for the girl, go for Olga. And at one point, Oblomov points out to Stoltz that isn't all of this striving, all of this hustle and bustle, all the grind, and all of the investments and all of the work, isn't the end goal to get to a place where we can simply rest and be still and just relax and enjoy. I want to work hard so I can go on vacation so that I can rest and just be still. Or I want to work hard and save up a lot of money so that I can retire and have a nice retirement, and then I can rest and be still. So if the end goal of all of this work, all of this striving is rest, Oblomov says, why not just rest now? Raskolnikov, the protagonist and axe-murderer of Crime and Punishment, takes a very different approach to the existential angst that confront both men. If Oblomov just continues to resist and demur from Stoltz's urgings to make something of his life, Raskolnikov is sort of the other extreme, where he is willing to do anything to take the most desperate action in order to follow Stoltz's urgings. And it's a very dark take on Stoltz's urging. And this desperate act has the entirely predictable consequence of essentially surrendering his own life and forfeiting his ability to choose, his ability to act, to the criminal justice system. And to the Russian criminal justice system of the 19th century. Good luck there, pal. It's only when he has zero choice, because it's all out of his hands and all in the criminal justice system, that that existential angst finally goes away. Oblomov takes the much more noble, I would say, and much more heroic choice of simply deciding not to act. He's not going to just go and do and act and take when he doesn't know fully what he wants. Goncharov knew Oblomov intimately. He wrote one book before this in a mad dash, and one after it in fits and spurts, but neither of those rose to the heights of Oblomov. Oblomov itself, he apparently started in 1847 or so, 12 years before it was published. Most of it, in particular the middle two sections that contain Oblomov's courtship with Olga, came out in a burst of productivity one summer at the famous spa at Marienbad in 1857, 2 years before the book was published. According to the introduction, it was the happiest moment of his life. Try as he might, he never reached those heights of productivity again. He had fought against his own Oblomovitis and secured a hard-won victory, temporary for him as a writer, but a permanent victory for the work that he produced. Everything came together for him that summer. So what is the real cure to Oblomovitis? Well, it's reading Oblomov. Oblomov obviously. Oblomov is me, he's you, He's all of us, at least at some point in our lives. As Americans, with our Puritan work ethic and our hustle culture, we don't want to admit it. When we're inactive, we chastise ourselves. We berate ourselves for being lazy. We beat up on ourselves. Oblomov is our shadow. He's our Russian shadow, if you will. And if you have honestly never felt that there was something good and fine that lay buried in you as in a grave, or that it was high time that gold was put into circulation, while simultaneously despairing of how or where to start, then I truly envy you. So I hope you've enjoyed this brief look at what I consider to be the second best of the many great 19th century Russian novels. If you did enjoy it, if you got some value from it, got some entertainment from it, I'd appreciate it if you would leave a like and subscribe, because I'm going to be putting more of these sorts of book tours out in the coming weeks. Click here if you would like to see a similar tour. And the best way to support the channel would be to check out one of my books. I will have links in the description box below. That's it for this one. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for stopping by.